Chosen one, why do you wake up at 3 a.m. feeling like something's calling your name? Why have you carried weight your entire life that others don't even seem to notice? Why does your soul ache for something you can't explain, like you're homesick for a place you've never been? Chosen one, if this message found you, heaven pressed pause on the noise of this world just for you. You are not here by accident. Listen carefully. While billions scroll mindlessly through their feeds tonight, something divine intercepted your scroll. The same God who spoke light into darkness just whispered your name through the digital chaos. He bent down from eternity, reached through time itself, and guided your finger to stop, right here. This is not coincidence. This is divine appointment. You've wondered if your tears were seen, haven't you? If your pain had purpose. If anyone in heaven remembers your address. Tonight, those questions get answered. Tonight, the veil gets pulled back. Tonight, you discover why your life has never felt ordinary. That restlessness in your chest, that's recognition. Your spirit remembering what your mind forgot. You were marked before your first breath, chosen before your parents even met, set apart before time began. The enemy has whispered lies for decades. You're nobody special. You missed your chance. Your best days are behind you. But hell's greatest fear is this moment when you remember who you really are. Before we go deeper into this sacred revelation, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. But right now, if something in your spirit is stirring, if you feel heaven itself pressing down on this moment, I need you to type these 3 words: I am chosen. Not for me, for your own soul. This is a prophetic act, a declaration that echoes through eternity. Do not leave. Do not scroll away, because what comes next will confirm everything you've suspected about your life. The signs you've dismissed, the dreams you've buried, the calling you've ignored. Your appointment with destiny starts now. Heaven is about to tell you exactly who you are. Why have you always felt like you were watching life from behind glass? Why did family gatherings leave you feeling like a stranger at your own table? Why, even as a child, did you carry questions in your heart that seemed too heavy for small shoulders? Dear one, what if I told you that every moment you felt out of place was actually heaven, placing you exactly where you needed to be? What if that crushing loneliness wasn't rejection? It was protection. Let me take you back to when you were 7 years old. Remember how you sat alone during recess while other children played? How you preferred the company of books to the laughter that felt foreign to your ears? Your mother worried. Your teachers called you different, but heaven was whispering something else entirely. This one belongs to me. You see, chosen one, there's something the world never told you about being marked by God. Before Jeremiah ever drew breath, before his tiny fingers could grasp his mother's hand, the Almighty declared in chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Set apart, not set aside, not forgotten, set apart for holy purpose. That child who felt different, that teenager who couldn't find their tribe, that young adult who watched others effortlessly navigate relationships while you stumbled through social interactions like a foreigner learning a new language. You weren't broken. You were being prepared. Think about it. Why would a child of 8 carry the weight of existential questions? Why would a 10-year-old feel responsible for their parents' marriage? Why would a teenager look at their peers chasing temporary pleasures and feel ancient inside? Because eternity was already flowing through your veins. The enemy saw it too. That's why the attacks started so early. The depression that hit you in middle school when your classmates were still innocent. The anxiety that gripped you in high school when others partied without a care. The spiritual warfare that followed you into college while your friends lived surface-level lives. Satan doesn't waste ammunition on ordinary targets. He doesn't deploy his heaviest artillery against people who pose no threat to his kingdom. But you've been in his crosshairs since childhood because he saw the crown hovering over your head before you even knew crowns existed. Every rejection was redirection. Every closed door was divine protection. Every friend who drifted away, every relationship that ended in confusion, every opportunity that slipped through your fingers, heaven was orchestrating your isolation because contamination could not be allowed. You needed to be refined in solitude, shaped in silence, prepared in the hidden place. Remember how you used to pray differently than other children, how you'd talk to God like he was sitting right beside you, how you'd sense things in rooms that others couldn't feel, how animals gravitated toward you without explanation. That wasn't imagination, that was recognition. Creation itself knew you carried something sacred. Your mother might have called you sensitive, your father might have worried you were too emotional, teachers labeled you introspective, friends said you were intense, but heaven was marking every tear, cataloging every question, recording every moment you chose depth over shallow, truth over comfort, authentic struggle over fake happiness. The nights you cried yourself to sleep, feeling like you didn't belong anywhere. God was collecting those tears in bottles, preparing to turn your pain into power, your isolation into intercession, your loneliness into a language that would one day comfort millions. You thought you were the weird one, the broken one, the one who couldn't figure out how to be normal. But normal was never your assignment. Normal was never your calling. Normal would have been your prison. Every birthday that felt hollow, every Christmas that left you empty, every celebration where you felt like an actor playing a role that didn't fit, that wasn't depression. That was your spirit, recognizing that earth was never meant to satisfy what heaven planted in you. The enemy fought you early because he saw the crown before you did. He recognized the authority, he knew the influence, he understood the danger you would become to his kingdom once you awakened to who you really are. But here's what hell never counted on. Every attack only made you stronger. Every rejection only refined your character. Every season of isolation only deepened your dependence on the one who never left you. You survived what should have destroyed you. You endured what would have broken others. You carried weight that would have crushed ordinary people. Why? Because you were never ordinary. The loneliness taught you to hear God's voice above human noise. The rejection developed your discernment. The isolation built your inner strength. The difference you felt was divine distinction. Right now, if you've ever felt out of place, if you've carried this sacred loneliness, if you've wondered why you never seemed to fit the mold everyone else was comfortable in, I need you to type, "That's me." Because heaven wants you to know, it was never rejection. It was redirection toward a destiny so magnificent that it required complete separation from everything ordinary. But understanding why you felt different is only the beginning. What's about to be revealed next will explain why that difference is about to change everything, not just for you, but for everyone whose life you're about to touch. You thought you were being punished, didn't you? Every sleepless night at 3 a.m. when your mind wouldn't stop racing. Every relationship that crumbled in your hands despite your best efforts. Every time the bills piled higher than your paycheck. Every diagnosis that felt like a death sentence. Every betrayal that cut so deep, you wondered if you'd ever trust again. You whispered to God in the darkness, "Why me? What did I do wrong?" But what if I told you that every single battle you fought, every tear you've cried, every storm you've weathered, wasn't evidence of God's anger? What if it was proof of his trust? Listen carefully, chosen one. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Hell doesn't mobilize its forces against people who pose no threat to the kingdom of darkness. The intensity of your warfare has been so fierce because the enemy saw something in you that you're only now beginning to see in yourself. You've been under attack because you carry something that terrifies hell itself. Think about this. Why would the devil fight so hard for something worthless? Why would darkness work overtime to destroy someone insignificant? The very fact that your life has been a battlefield is undeniable proof that you're carrying treasure the enemy desperately wants to steal. David understood this when he wrote in Psalm 34-19, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all." Notice, he didn't say the righteous would have no afflictions. He said they'd have many. But here's the promise that will revolutionize your perspective. God delivers you out of them all. Every single battle you survived was your training ground. Every betrayal that should have broken you only made you stronger. Every financial crisis that should have destroyed you somehow became testimony of God's provision. Every health scare that should have defeated you instead revealed the supernatural resilience burning in your bones. You've been forged in fires that would have consumed ordinary people. But you're not ordinary, are you? You're still standing. You're still breathing. You're still believing when logic says quit. That's not human strength, beloved. That's divine DNA coursing through your veins. Consider the diamond buried deep in the earth. For millions of years, it endures crushing pressure that would pulverize granite. Temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Forces that remake its very molecular structure. And what emerges? Not destruction, but brilliance. Not weakness, but the hardest substance known to man. The jeweler doesn't apologize to the diamond for the pressure. He celebrates what the pressure created. God has been doing the same with you. Every crushing weight was forming your brilliance. Every scorching trial was perfecting your clarity. Every moment you felt like you were breaking was actually the moment you were becoming unbreakable. But here's what will shake you to your core. The gold refining process requires temperatures of 1,947 degrees Fahrenheit. At that heat, everything impure burns away: the dross, the contamination, the weakness. Only pure gold remains. The refiner knows the gold is ready when he can see his reflection in it. God has been refining you in fires so intense that everything false, everything fearful, everything that wasn't truly you got burned away. And now, when he looks at your life, he sees his reflection staring back at him. Those sleepless nights weren't insomnia, they were midnight appointments with the Almighty. Those broken relationships weren't failures, they were divine redirections protecting you from contamination. Those financial struggles weren't curses, they were lessons in depending on heaven's economy instead of Wall Street's promises. Isaiah 54-17 declares with thunderous authority, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Notice it doesn't say no weapon will be formed, it says they won't succeed. The attacks were real, but their success was impossible because you carry heaven's warranty. Every weapon that was forged against you in the fires of hell was destined to fail because you were forged in the fires of God's refining love. Think about the ocean waves crashing against the shoreline. Do they wear down the sand? Absolutely. But what about the granite cliffs? What about the bedrock? The same waves that erode the weak only polish the strong. They crash against the rocks not to destroy them, but to reveal their unshakable foundation. You are not the sand, chosen one. You are the bedrock. The intensity of your battles reveals the intensity of your assignment. The fierceness of the warfare exposes the magnitude of your calling. The depth of your pain prophesies the height of your purpose. Hell fought so hard because hell saw your future before you did. The enemy recognized the crown hovering over your head while you were still looking at your scars. He saw the nations you'd influence, the lives you'd save, the darkness you'd demolish with just your testimony. That's why the attacks were so personal, so calculated, so relentless. Because if the enemy could convince you that your pain was punishment instead of preparation, he could keep you from stepping into the authority that would end his reign in your life forever. But his time is up. Your pain is about to become your platform. Your mess is about to become your message. Your wounds are about to become your weapons. Right now, I need you to do something that will send shockwaves through the spiritual realm. I need you to type 3 words, "Still I rise." But don't just type it, say it out loud. Let your voice shake if it needs to. Let the tears fall if they must. This is not a comment. This is a declaration to hell itself. You are declaring that every weapon failed, every scheme backfired, every attempt to destroy you only revealed the indestructible life pulsing in your spirit. Still you rise, still you stand, still you believe. And if hell couldn't stop you when you were broken, what makes them think they can stop you now that you're awakened? Dear one, you've spent 70, 80, maybe 90 years wondering why you felt different, why you never quite fit, why people looked at you strangely when you said things they couldn't understand. Tonight, that wondering ends. You see, God doesn't mark his chosen ones with visible signs that the world can read. No, his signatures are written in the spirit realm, carved into the very fabric of your soul. And if you're still listening to my voice right now, it's because something inside you recognizes these marks. Let me reveal the 3 spiritual seals that prove beyond doubt you are chosen. Each one has been burning inside you since birth, but the enemy has convinced you they were flaws. Tonight, we expose his lies. The first mark, supernatural sensitivity. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the weight of unspoken tension? Have you known someone was lying before they finished their sentence? Have you sensed death approaching a loved one days before anyone else noticed? You called it intuition. The world called it being too sensitive, but heaven calls it prophetic discernment. Listen to me carefully. 1 Corinthians 2:14 tells us, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness, and cannot understand them because they are discerned spiritually." You've been receiving spiritual intelligence your entire life. That's why small talk exhausts you. That's why you can't stomach fake friendships. That's why you withdraw when the spiritual atmosphere gets heavy. Your soul operates on heaven's frequency, and most people are tuned to Earth's static. Remember when you were young, how you'd know things before they happened, how you'd wake up crying for reasons you couldn't explain, only to learn later that someone was in pain. That wasn't coincidence. That was your spirit picking up transmissions from the throne room. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been apologizing for this gift your whole life, making yourself smaller, dimming your light so others would feel comfortable. But chosen one, your sensitivity isn't a burden to bear, it's a weapon to wield. The second mark, the attraction of innocence. Why do children run to you at family gatherings? Why do babies stop crying when you hold them? Why do animals seek you out, following you like you're carrying invisible treats? It's because innocence recognizes purity. Children and animals see with unclouded eyes. They see the light of God radiating from your being, and they're drawn to it like moths to flame. You bring peace by simply existing. You calm storms with your presence. That crying infant, that anxious dog, that troubled grandchild, they all sense something in you that speaks to their spirits without you saying a word. Matthew 18:3 records Jesus saying, "Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." But chosen one, you never lost that childlike spirit. That's why children trust you instantly. They recognize a kindred soul. And here's the mystery that will astound you. While you're comforting others, who comforts you? While you're pouring out peace, who fills your cup? The answer is simple. You've learned to draw directly from the source. Your well runs deeper than human understanding. The third mark, creative manifestation. This mark might shock you. Have you noticed that your thoughts become reality faster than other people's? When you speak blessing, things change. When you declare breakthrough, barriers fall. When you pray with authority, heaven moves. You're not just thinking thoughts, dear one, you're releasing creative words into the atmosphere. Genesis 1:26 reveals that we are made in God's image, and God creates with his words. "Let there be light," he said, and light exploded across the universe. Your mind isn't just processing information, it's a co-creation chamber with the Almighty. That idea that keeps returning to you, that vision that won't leave you alone, that dream that feels too big for your circumstances. It's not wishful thinking, it's prophetic downloading. But here's where it gets dangerous for the enemy. He knows that once you realize the power flowing through your thoughts, once you understand that your words carry creative force, you become unstoppable. That's why he's flooded your mind with doubt, fear, and distraction for decades. But tonight, those whispers die. You thought you were strange. Heaven says you are marked. Every time you felt out of place, it was because you carried the atmosphere of another realm. Every time people misunderstood you, it was because they were earthly minded trying to comprehend heavenly things. Every time you felt alone, it was because you were walking in dimensions they couldn't access. You are not broken, chosen one. You are branded, not by accident, but by divine appointment. These 3 marks burning within you, sensitivity, attraction of innocence, and creative manifestation, they are heaven's fingerprints on your soul. The compass inside your spirit has been pointing toward true north your entire life. Others called it being different. God calls it being directed. Hidden beneath the trials of your life, there's been a seal glowing like fire. Every test you faced, every pressure you endured, it only made that seal burn brighter. Now, in this moment, that seal is visible for all of heaven to see. If these 3 marks are pulsing with recognition in your spirit right now, if something deep inside you is saying, "Yes, that's me," then I need you to make a prophetic declaration. Type 777 the comments. This isn't just a number, it's divine confirmation. 7 represents completion, and 777 declares that you are complete in your calling, complete in your identity, complete in your purpose. When you type 777, you're not just acknowledging the marks, you're activating them, you're agreeing with heaven's assessment. You're stepping into the fullness of who you were created to be. But understanding your marks is only the beginning. Because now that you know what you carry, the question becomes, what are you going to do with this divine inheritance? Dear chosen one, I need you to stop running from a truth that's been chasing you your entire life. You've spent decades believing you're waiting for something, waiting for your breakthrough, waiting for recognition, waiting for God to finally notice you. But what if I told you that everything you think you're waiting for has already been placed upon your head? You are not waiting for your crown. You already wear it. Right now, as you sit there questioning whether these words are for you, there is an invisible crown resting upon your head that hell itself can see, but you've been blind to. The enemy has worked overtime to keep you from discovering this truth, because he knows once you realize you're already crowned, there's no stopping what heaven will do through you. Why do you think your life has been so difficult? Why do you think the attacks have been so relentless? You don't attack peasants, beloved. You attack royalty. The warfare you've endured wasn't evidence of God's absence. It was evidence of your crown. Listen to what the Apostle Paul declared in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. But here's what will shake you. Paul didn't say he hoped for a crown. He said there is a crown in store. Present tense. Already prepared. Already assigned. That crown has your name engraved in heaven's gold. Think about this carefully. When did God place that crown on Paul's head? Was it the day he died? Number. It was the moment he surrendered on the Damascus road. The crown was prepared the instant he said yes to his calling. Everything after that was simply learning to carry the weight of royalty. You've been carrying that same weight, haven't you? That unexplainable burden that others don't understand. That responsibility you never asked for but can't shake. That's not pressure, dear one. That's the weight of a crown you've been wearing all along. But there's more. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 13 reveals something even more shocking. When you believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit. You are not just crowned, you are sealed, stamped with heaven's ownership, branded with divine DNA that cannot be counterfeited, cannot be removed, cannot be denied. Do you understand what this means? Every time you felt abandoned, that seal was burning on your forehead in the spirit realm. Every time you felt forgotten, heaven's stamp was glowing like neon in the darkness. Every time you've questioned your worth, the very signature of the Almighty was declaring your value to principalities and powers. The enemy has been fighting a sealed vessel, and he's losing his mind about it. But here's where this gets personal, and I need you to lean in close. How many years have you spent apologizing for taking up space? How many times have you shrunk back when you should have stepped forward? How many opportunities have you missed because you couldn't see the crown that's been on your head since the day you were born again? You've been living beneath your identity. You've been walking like a pauper when heaven calls you royalty. You've been speaking like a servant when God addresses you as his child. The tragedy isn't that you're not crowned. The tragedy is that you've been crowned all along and living like you're not. Listen carefully. Crowns are never placed without preparation. Every tear you've cried polished it. Every betrayal you survived strengthened it. Every mountain you climbed adjusted its fit. The pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation for the weight of glory you were destined to carry. But sealed vessels carry responsibility. When heaven stamps you, it's not just protection, it's commission. You are marked not just to be blessed, but to bless others. Not just to be healed, but to heal others. Not just to overcome, but to help others overcome. That seal glows brightest when you're walking in purpose. It dims when you're hiding from your calling. Right now, if you feel that stirring in your chest, that's not anxiety, that's your seal responding to truth. It recognizes its own name being called. You want to know why nothing ordinary satisfies you anymore? Because ordinary things cannot satisfy royal souls. You want to know why you feel restless in mediocre conversations? Because crowned heads need kingdom conversations. You want to know why you can't settle for less? Because less insults the crown you wear. But the question burning in heaven right now is this: when will you start acting like who you already are? Stop waiting for permission to speak with authority. Your seal gives you that right. Stop apologizing for the space you take up. Your crown demands that space. Stop shrinking back from your calling. Your identity requires you to step forward. If you can receive this word, if something deep in your spirit is saying, yes, this is me, then I need you to make a prophetic declaration right now. Don't just think it, type it, or whisper it with everything you have. I wear glory. Those 3 words aren't just a statement. They're a declaration of war against every lie that's tried to diminish you. They're a proclamation to hell that the game is over. They're an announcement to heaven that you're ready to walk in the fullness of who you've always been. But wearing glory isn't just about personal elevation. When you start walking in your crown and seal, you give others permission to discover theirs. Your boldness awakens their boldness. Your authority activates their authority. The question that will determine everything moving forward is this: now that you know you're already crowned and sealed, what are you going to do about it? Dear chosen one, I need to ask you something that might cut deep into your soul. How many years have you spent believing that your hiddenness meant you were forgotten? How many nights have you lain awake wondering if God put you on the shelf while everyone else got their moment to shine? You've watched others get promoted while you stayed in the same place. You've seen doors open for people half your age while yours remained locked. You've witnessed breakthrough after breakthrough pass you by, and somewhere deep inside, you started whispering the enemy's favorite lie. Maybe I missed my time. Maybe it's too late for me. But what if everything you thought was rejection was actually protection? What if everything you called delay was actually divine strategy? Look out your window right now. If it's winter where you are, you see trees that look dead, stripped bare, lifeless. But those trees aren't dying, dear one. They're waiting. They're conserving every ounce of energy for the explosion that's coming. The roots are growing deeper, while the world sees only emptiness. That's been you. That's been your story. While others were blooming in seasons that weren't yours, God was developing your root system. While they were getting applause for surface growth, you were being prepared for something that would shake the very foundations of hell itself. The prophet Habakkuk understood this divine rhythm when he wrote, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Did you catch that? Though it linger, wait for it. God isn't late. God isn't forgetful. God is strategic. Your waiting wasn't wasted. It was gestation. Think about this. When a woman is pregnant, for 9 long months, nothing appears to be happening on the outside. She looks the same for weeks. People ask, "Are you sure you're really pregnant?" But inside, cells are dividing, organs are forming, life is being knitted together in the secret place. The waiting isn't emptiness. The waiting is creation. You've been pregnant with purpose for decades, and you didn't even know it. Every tear you cried in secret was watering the seed. Every prayer you whispered in the dark was speaking to the promise growing inside you. Every moment you felt invisible was God protecting what He was forming until it was strong enough to survive in the open air. But here's what's going to shock you. The gestation period is over. The season is shifting right beneath your feet. Can you feel it? That restlessness that's been growing stronger. That sense that something is stirring. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's anticipation. Heaven itself is holding its breath because your emergence is imminent. Look at the trees again. In just a few weeks, those same branches that look dead will explode with blossoms, not gradually, not slowly. Overnight, winter surrenders to spring, and what looked impossible becomes inevitable. That's what's happening in your life right now. The impossible is becoming inevitable. You know why the enemy fought you so hard during your hidden seasons? Because he could see what was growing beneath the surface. He could see the massive oak tree inside the acorn. He could see the mighty river inside the trickle. He could see the nation-shaking ministry inside the broken vessel. But his time to stop you has expired. The protective covering is being removed. The incubation period is ending. Spring is breaking through frozen ground. For 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years, you've been like that seed buried in dark soil. You couldn't see the sun. You couldn't feel the warmth. You wondered if you were buried or planted. But there's a difference, dear one. When something is buried, it stays dead. When something is planted, it explodes with life. You weren't buried. You were planted. And the master gardener is about to show the world what he's been growing in the secret place. Your emergence won't be quiet. It won't be gradual. When God decides it's spring in your life, everything changes at once. Doors that were welded shut suddenly swing wide. Relationships that were impossible suddenly align. Resources that were scarce suddenly overflow. This is your moment. This is your season. This is your turning point. I want you to do something prophetic right now. Write today's date in the comments or in your notebook. Not tomorrow's date. Today's, man's, because heaven will call this your turning point. Years from now, you'll look back at this moment and say, that's when everything shifted. That's when winter ended and spring exploded into my life. But you have to choose to step into it. You have to choose to believe that your season of hiddenness is over and your season of manifestation has begun. The soil is breaking. The light is breaking through. The question that will determine everything is this: are you ready to bloom, or are you going to keep telling yourself it's still winter when God is declaring it's spring? Chosen one, you've been thinking too small about your calling. You've been measuring your life by the pain you've endured, the years you've lived, the mistakes you've made. But God's perspective is vastly different than yours. While you see wrinkles and limitations, heaven sees a torch that's about to set nations ablaze. Let me ask you something that will cut straight to your heart. What if every tear you've cried, every rejection you've faced, every sleepless night you've endured wasn't just about your personal healing? What if it was all preparation for a generational breakthrough that would echo through eternity? You see, dear one, the enemy didn't attack you so viciously because you were weak. He attacked you because he saw something terrifying, your potential to ignite a spiritual wildfire that would consume his strongholds for generations to come. Think about Moses for a moment. 80 years old when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. The world would have written him off as past his prime, ready for the nursing home. But God wasn't looking at his birth certificate. He was looking at his prepared heart. Moses didn't just free himself from Pharaoh's bondage, he liberated an entire nation. 3 million people walked out of slavery because one old man said yes to God's impossible assignment. That's the scope of what God has placed inside you. Jesus declared in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Notice, he didn't say you might become a light someday, or you could be a light if you try harder. He said you are the light of the world, present tense, right now, at your age, with your history, despite your failures. But here's what will shake you to your core. Your light isn't meant to shine in isolation. It's designed to ignite other lights. When one torch is lit, it has the power to light 1,000 others without diminishing its own flame. That's the mathematics of kingdom impact. You've been hiding your light under the basket of self-doubt, under the bushel of "I'm too old," under the weight of "my time has passed." But God is removing that covering tonight. He's positioning you on the hill where your light can be seen for miles. Do you realize what happens when you finally step into your calling? When you stop apologizing for your age and start walking in your authority? When you quit making excuses and start making an impact? Your children will notice first. They'll see a strength in you they've never witnessed before. A confidence that doesn't come from human willpower, but from divine appointment. Your grandchildren will feel the shift. The generational curses that have plagued your family line for decades will begin to crack under the weight of your obedience. But it doesn't stop with your family. When you rise into your true identity, entire bloodlines rise with you. The woman at the grocery store who's been contemplating suicide will encounter your peace and choose life instead. The man at the gas station who's been battling addiction will see your freedom and believe that recovery is possible. The young mother in your neighborhood who's drowning in depression will witness your joy and remember that hope still exists. You think you're just one person, but you're connected to a web of destiny that spans continents. Every choice you make, every step you take, every word you speak ripples through the spiritual realm in ways you cannot comprehend. Right now, there's a teenager in downtown Chicago who's about to make a decision that could destroy her life. But your obedience to this calling creates a shift in the spiritual atmosphere that reaches her just in time. There's a business owner in rural Alabama who's on the verge of bankruptcy, ready to give up on his dreams. But your breakthrough creates a breakthrough in his situation too. This is why the warfare against your life has been so intense. This is why every step forward has felt like a battle. The enemy knows that when you fully awaken to who you are, his grip on entire regions will be broken. You're not just fighting for your personal victory. You're fighting for the freedom of multitudes you'll never meet in this lifetime, but whose destinies are tied to your obedience. The torch is in your hand, chosen one. For too long, you've hidden it, doubted it, diminished it. But tonight, God is saying, light it, hold it high. Let the world see what happens when my chosen ones stop playing small and start walking in the fullness of their calling. When you rise, entire bloodlines rise with you. When you heal, generational wounds close forever. When you speak with authority, the atmosphere shifts not just in your home, but in your city, your state, your nation. If you believe this word, if something in your spirit is confirming that your assignment is bigger than you ever imagined, then don't keep this torch to yourself. Share it right now. Place this message into another hand. Let this fire spread to someone who needs to remember. They're not just surviving their story, they're writing history. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you accept the weight of this global assignment, or will you shrink back into the comfortable cage of insignificance? Because, chosen one, the world is waiting for your light, and time is running out for excuses. You thought the greatest battles in your life came from obvious enemies. You prepared for the ones who cursed you to your face, who openly opposed you, who declared war from a distance. But the deepest wounds, dear chosen one, came from those who smiled while they struck. They came from voices you trusted, hands you held, hearts you believed were loyal. Not everyone around you was sent to support you. Some wore masks, so convincing that even you couldn't see the deception. until the blade was already buried deep. Think about the past 5 years of your life. How many people who once called themselves your friends suddenly turned cold? How many family members who promised to stand by you walked away when you needed them most? How many church members who claimed to love you began whispering poison behind your back? You wondered what you did wrong. You questioned your own heart. You blamed yourself for their betrayal. But what if I told you this was never about you? What if their departure was divinely orchestrated? What if heaven allowed these masks to slip not to destroy you, but to protect what God was building in you? The scripture warns us in Proverbs 27:6, "Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." Every false kiss you received, every empty promise that was broken, every loyal word that turned to lies, was heaven exposing what was always hidden. The wound hurt, yes, but the revelation was mercy. Look at Jesus himself. For 3 years, Judas walked beside him, ate at his table, listened to his teachings, called him Master. Yet all along there was a price tag hanging over Christ's head in Judas's heart, 30 pieces of silver. The betrayal wasn't spontaneous, chosen one. It was calculated, planned, nursed in secret, while love was being preached in public. But here's the mystery that will shake you. Jesus knew. He knew at the Last Supper when he said, "One of you will betray me." He knew when he washed Judas's feet. He knew when he broke bread and offered it to the one who would sell him. Yet he didn't expose him. He didn't cast him out. He allowed the mask to remain until the appointed time. Why? Because the betrayal was necessary for the resurrection. Your Judases have been necessary too. Every smiling face that hid a dagger, every warm embrace that concealed cold calculation, every person who gained your trust just to break it was allowed by heaven's hand. Not because God is cruel, but because your destiny required purification that could only come through this kind of fire. Think of it like this. Imagine a beautiful rose garden where weeds have grown up alongside the flowers. From a distance, everything looks lush and green, but up close, the weeds are slowly choking the roses, stealing their nutrients, blocking their sunlight. A wise gardener doesn't just water the whole garden. He gets on his knees, examines each plant, and pulls out what doesn't belong. The weeds fight back. Their roots go deep. But the gardener knows, if he doesn't remove them now, there will be no roses left to save. God has been gardening your life. Every person who revealed their true nature wasn't there to destroy your bloom. They were there to protect it. Their departure created space for your growth. Their betrayal revealed who could be trusted with your future. Their mask slipping was heaven's way of saying, "This one cannot go where I'm taking you." You've been angry, haven't you? You've felt the bitterness rise in your throat when you think about how they treated you, how they used you, how they abandoned you right when you thought you could count on them. But anger is just pain wearing a different mask. Underneath the rage is grief. Grief for the relationships you thought were real. Grief for the trust that was shattered. Grief for the innocence you lost when you realized people aren't always who they appear to be. But tonight, I want to transform that grief into gratitude, because every enemy in disguise was actually a guardian angel wearing the wrong costume. They came to teach you discernment. They came to strengthen your spiritual radar. They came to show you the difference between those who love your light and those who want to consume it. David understood this when he wrote in Psalm 55:12-14, "If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship at the house of God." Even King David, a man after God's own heart, faced betrayal from his inner circle. The pain cut deep because the relationship was close. But notice what David didn't do. He didn't become bitter. He didn't close his heart to all friendship. He didn't stop trusting entirely. Instead, he learned to lean more heavily on the one friend who would never betray him. He learned to find his security in God's faithfulness rather than human loyalty. The people who hurt you the most were often the ones closest to you, because proximity creates the deepest wounds. But proximity also creates the most powerful lessons. You learned who you really were when they showed you who they really were. You discovered your strength when their support disappeared. You found your voice when their encouragement turned to criticism. Every mask that slipped was not to hurt you. It was to protect your bloom. Your enemies in disguise weren't just random people behaving badly. They were divine assignments, sent to prepare you for the level of calling that was coming. Because the higher God takes you, the more discernment you'll need. The more authority you carry, the more people will try to manipulate it. The brighter your light shines, the more moths will be drawn to it with hidden motives. They trained you without knowing it. Every lie they told taught you to recognize truth. Every promise they broke showed you what real commitment looks like. Every time they chose themselves over you, they were unconsciously preparing you to choose God over everything else. The betrayal was not accidental. It was allowed by heaven to purify your path. Right now, as these words settle into your spirit, I want you to do something that might feel impossible. Instead of cursing those who wore masks, I want you to thank heaven for the pruning. Instead of rehearsing the pain they caused, I want you to recognize the protection they provided. Instead of seeing their departure as loss, I want you to see it as liberation. Type these words or whisper them to the heavens. Thank you for the pruning. This isn't about denying the pain they caused. This is about transforming that pain into prophetic gratitude. This is about seeing with heaven's eyes instead of wounded eyes. This is about understanding that sometimes God's greatest gifts come wrapped in betrayal's clothing. But here's what you need to understand as we move deeper into your true identity. The enemies in disguise have been exposed for a reason. They've been removed to make room. Space has been created in your life, and that space isn't meant to stay empty. Something beautiful, something authentic, something powerful is about to fill the void they left behind. The question is, are you ready to discover what God has been protecting you for? How many winters have you endured, wondering if spring would ever come again? How many times have you stared out your window at the frozen ground of your circumstances, believing nothing could ever grow there again? You've been asking God the same question for 20, 30, maybe 50 years. When, Lord? When will my breakthrough come? Dear chosen one, what if I told you that every winter you've endured wasn't God's silence, it was His strategy? Picture this with me. Right now, across the heartland of America, beneath 3 feet of snow in Iowa, beneath the frozen earth of Nebraska, beneath the hardened soil of Montana, there are millions of seeds. To the naked eye, they appear dead, forgotten, buried beyond hope. The farmers who planted them 6 months ago haven't seen a single sign of life. The harsh winds howl above. The bitter cold penetrates deep. Everything looks barren, lifeless, finished. But beneath that frozen surface, something miraculous is happening. Those seeds aren't dead, they're germinating. The cold isn't killing them, it's conditioning them. The darkness isn't destroying them, it's developing them. Every day of winter is adding strength to what will emerge when the season shifts. You are that seed, beloved, and your winter is about to break. For too long, you've measured God's love by your comfort. You've judged His faithfulness by your circumstances. When the delays stretched into decades, when the prayers seemed to echo in empty air, when door after door slammed shut, you whispered, "Has God forgotten me?" But the prophet Habakkuk received a word that will shatter every doubt you've carried. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Did you catch that? It will not delay. Not from God's perspective, not from heaven's calendar. Every day you've waited has been right on time for your appointed season. Think about Sarah, Abraham's wife, 90 years old, 90, when God opened her womb. For decades, she watched younger women cradle babies while her arms remained empty. For decades, she heard the promise, but saw only impossibility. The winter of her waiting stretched so long that she laughed when the angel spoke. Not joy, bitter laughter, the laughter of someone who'd given up hope. But God's timing isn't our timing. Sarah's winter wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because when Isaac finally came, he didn't just fill her empty arms, he filled an empty nation. One baby became the father of multitudes. Her breakthrough wasn't just personal, it was generational. Your winter has been generational preparation too. Every tear you've cried has been watering seeds for your children's children. Every prayer you've whispered has been building an inheritance you can't see yet. Every night you've endured has been developing the strength you'll need for the responsibility coming with your spring. But here's what will shock you about seasons. They don't change gradually. You don't slowly drift from winter into spring. No spring arrives in an explosion. One day the ground is frozen solid. The next day it's erupting with life. One moment everything looks dead. The next moment colors burst forth that have been hidden for months. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was gestation. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years, tending sheep when he was called to lead nations. Can you imagine the questions that tormented his mind? God, I was raised in Pharaoh's palace. I was educated, prepared, ready. Why am I wasting away in this desert? Why are my prime years being eaten by sand and silence? But Moses didn't understand heaven's agricultural principles. God wasn't wasting his time, he was developing his character. Those 40 years weren't deletion, they were preparation. When Moses finally stood before Pharaoh, he didn't speak with the arrogance of Egyptian privilege. He spoke with the humility of desert wandering. He didn't command with royal authority, he moved with supernatural power. The winter made the man. The delay created the deliverer. Right now, as I speak these words, can you feel something shifting in the spiritual atmosphere around your life? That stirring in your chest isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. Your spirit recognizes what your mind can't see yet. The ground is beginning to crack. The soil of your circumstances is starting to soften. The temperature of heaven is rising over your situation. Look at your hands right now. Those hands that have folded in desperate prayer for decades. Those hands that have worked when hope was gone. Those hands that have wiped tears no one else saw. In a matter of moments, those same hands are going to be needed for harvest. The same hands that planted seeds in tears are about to reap in joy. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul. Seasonal shifts happen suddenly, and they require immediate response. When spring arrives, farmers don't hesitate. They don't debate. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They move, they plant, they work. Because spring doesn't last forever, it's a window of opportunity that opens and closes. Your spiritual spring is opening right now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. I need you to do something prophetic. Get a piece of paper and write today's date on it. Write the day, the month, the year. Then write these words underneath. This is the day my season shifted. Put that paper somewhere, you'll see it every day. Because what's happening right now isn't just another encouraging message. It's a prophetic declaration that your winter is ending and your spring has begun. The question that will determine everything about your next chapter is this. When your season shifts this dramatically, this suddenly, this supernaturally, will you have the faith to step into the harvest that's been waiting for you all along? Dear one, you've carried shame about your failures, haven't you? You've looked at your mistakes and whispered, "How could God use someone like me?" You've counted your sins like scars, believing each one disqualified you further from his love. But what if I told you that your worst moments couldn't erase what heaven stamped into your spirit before time began? You see, most people think God's love is conditional. They believe his calling can be revoked. They live in terror that one mistake, one bad season, one moment of weakness will cause heaven to withdraw its hand. But chosen one, that's not how the kingdom operates. You weren't just called, you were sealed. Listen to the Apostle Paul's thunderous declaration in Ephesians 1:13. When you believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit, marked. not suggested for marking, not conditionally stamped, marked with a seal that cannot be broken, cannot be forged, cannot be removed. Think about ancient kings. When a royal decree went out, it wasn't signed with ink that could fade. It was pressed with hot wax and the king's signet ring. That seal meant one thing: this document carries the full authority of the throne. Anyone who broke that seal committed treason against the crown itself. Chosen one, heaven pressed its seal into your spirit. The Holy Spirit himself became God's signature across your soul. And here's what will shock you: that seal doesn't fade when you stumble. It doesn't crack when you doubt. It doesn't weaken when others reject you. Why do you think you're still here? After the betrayals that should have destroyed you, after the losses that should have buried you, after the mistakes that should have disqualified you, you survived because you carry an unbreakable seal. That depression that tried to consume your mind, it couldn't touch the seal. That addiction that tried to chain your will, it couldn't break the seal. That financial ruin that tried to convince you God had abandoned you, it couldn't even scratch the seal. You've been walking around thinking you're damaged goods, but heaven sees royal decree written across your forehead. You've been apologizing for taking up space, but the creator of the universe stamped mine across your spirit in letters of fire. Think back to your darkest hour, that night when you wanted to give up, when the pain was so deep you couldn't see tomorrow. What stopped you? What invisible force kept you breathing when breathing hurt? That was the seal, beloved. Heaven's ownership protecting heaven's property. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where this truth cuts through every lie you've believed about yourself. The seal doesn't just mark you as God's. It marks you as untouchable by hell. That's why the enemy fights you so hard. That's why the attacks seem so personal, so relentless, so designed to break you. Because Satan knows what you've forgotten, you carry the signature of the Most High God. Every scheme against you is actually treason against heaven's throne. Look at Daniel in the lion's den. Those lions didn't lose their appetite. They didn't suddenly become vegetarians. They recognized the seal. When they saw heaven's mark on Daniel's life, their jaws snapped shut, not by choice, but by decree. Your lions have been prowling around you for years. Financial lions, health lions, relationship lions. But they cannot devour what heaven has sealed. They can circle, they can roar, they can intimidate, but they cannot consume. That's why no storm could erase you, because you were sealed. That's why no betrayal could break you, because you were sealed. That's why no mistake could disqualify you, because you were sealed. The seal isn't based on your performance, it's based on His promise. It isn't maintained by your perfection, it's maintained by His faithfulness. You didn't earn it, so you can't lose it. But chosen one, this seal comes with responsibility. Royal decrees aren't just for decoration, they're for demonstration. The world needs to see what happens when heaven stamps its authority on human flesh. They need to witness what it looks like when someone walks in unshakable identity. Stop apologizing for who you are. Stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Stop living small when you carry the seal of the infinite God. That restlessness in your spirit isn't dissatisfaction. It's the seal demanding you rise to your full height. Right now, I want you to do something prophetic. Type 555 in the comments. This represents grace multiplied, favor overflowing, heaven's seal activated. Every time you write it, you're declaring, I am marked by the Most High. I carry His signature. I walk in His authority. This isn't religious hype. This is kingdom reality. You are sealed, beloved. Permanently, irrevocably, eternally sealed. And what heaven seals, no force in existence can unseal. But understanding your seal is just the beginning. Because when you truly grasp that you're marked by divinity itself, everything about how you see your future changes. Your past stops defining you. Your present stops limiting you. And your destiny starts calling your name with a voice you can no longer ignore. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to hold these truths close to your heart like precious treasures. Remember this: you were not just called, you were sealed. Before your first breath, before your parents even met, heaven stamped its eternal signature across your spirit. That seal cannot be broken by your mistakes, cannot be weakened by your struggles, and cannot be removed by anyone's rejection. You carry the unshakable mark of the Most High God. Remember this too: your battles were not random. Every storm you survived, every valley you walked through, every tear you shed in secret, they were all evidence that you carry something precious. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on the ordinary. He attacks those who threaten his kingdom. Your warfare has been your proof of calling. And remember this above all: you are not walking this path alone. Right now, at this very moment, the same God who sealed you before time began is still working in your life. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating encounters that will leave you breathless with his faithfulness. But more than that, you have a community right here. Look at these comments flowing in, see these hearts connecting, feel these spirits resonating. You are surrounded by thousands of fellow chosen ones who understand your journey because they're walking it too. We are not just viewers on a screen. We are a family united by heaven's seal, bound together by divine purpose. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know you carry heaven's unbreakable seal, how will you live differently tomorrow morning when you wake up? Before I release you, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with God for 5 decades. Almighty God, creator of heaven and earth, the one who seals his chosen with eternal fire, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Father, you see them, not just their struggles, but their strength, not just their questions, but their faith, not just their pain, but their purpose. Lord, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary spirits right now. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are sealed. Where they feel overwhelmed, be their peace. Where they feel uncertain, be their clarity. Let them feel your presence so strongly that doubt has no place to land in their hearts. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them dreams and visions that will guide their steps. Heal their bodies, restore their relationships, multiply their provision. Father, let them wake up tomorrow, knowing beyond any shadow of doubt that they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond understanding, and sealed beyond breaking. Let the enemy tremble at the sight of your mark upon their lives. Let circumstances bow to your decree over their destiny. And God, use their story, every chapter, every scar, every victory to set others free. Let their life become a lighthouse for those still lost in the storm. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and unshakable love. Amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. Share in the comments below what God spoke to your heart today. What shifted in your spirit? What are you believing him for in this new season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep going. And if this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to remember they're not alone. There's someone in your life right now who's forgotten they're sealed by heaven. Be the messenger who reminds them of their true identity. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you tonight. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of sealed ones who gather here regularly to be reminded of who we really are. Until we meet again, walk in the confidence of your calling, rest in the security of your seal, and never forget you are chosen, you are marked, and you are eternally his. The seal is unbreakable, your identity is unshakable, and your destiny is unstoppable. God bless you, chosen one. You are never alone.